bringing you the latest news from Liberty Athletics. This is the Patriot Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back into the high school fan zone on 100.7 FM. This is going to be the Patriot Fan Zone. Before I jump in with Liberty Defensive Coordinator Duane Toliver to my far left, if you're watching on TV, I'm going to run through the radio schedule for this week. Thursday night, Lubbock Cooper is at home against Plainview in their District 2-5A Division II opener. That is right here on 100.7 FM. Friday night, we'll start with the Liberty Patriots, who have their first ever home game at Patriot Stadium. Huge week for Liberty. Had a big night out at the stadium tonight. They play Fort Stckton. That is on 93.1 Yes FM. Kickoff at 7. Pregame starts at 6:30 on the radio. Monterey is at home against Amarillo High at 7 p.m. at Lowry Field. 93.7 The Eagle. 6:30 p.m. pregame, 7 p.m. kickoff. Idalou and Shallowater get together in that county rivalry that's always got a little bit of interest in it. That's at sunny 97.7, 6:30 p.m. pregame, 7 p.m. kickoff. And then Friendship Tigers go down to Midland, take on Midland Christian. 7 p.m. kickoff, 6:30 pregame on Double T 97.3 FM. Remember, when your game is over, jump on to Double T 97.3 FM for the Friday Night Live scoreboard show. Folks from all over West Texas have reports on games that have happened. I'm trying to think who calls in your games usually, but there's somebody. You guys.
Probably Branson.
It's
Nash.
Branson. You are correct. Calls in and talks about the Liberty Patriots. He has not talked about a win yet, but he's going to soon.
Yes.
I can feel it. Hudson Hefner was here and we talked about it. He gave a great answer. He's got great expressions anyway. He didn't even react when I kept calling him by his brother's name. But we got to the end and I said, you guys have done a lot of firsts already this year. What's the one first that you're looking forward to the most? And he said, win.
Yes.
For a young guy, he was locked in. He had a game face on.
We're all there. We're tired of the tough lessons, and we're just ready for that first win.
But you guys knew when the way the school opened with freshmen and sophomores playing the non-varsity schedule, you knew it was going to be a process.
Yes, no doubt. There's always growing pains, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. Just the fact that we get to start something brand new and build it the way we want it, and it's fun.
Well, and Joe Sexton, the AD, didn't do you guys any favors.
Yeah, I don't know who set the schedule up, and I don't know who he consulted, but man,
I've teased him about that before. I was like, you were going to have to coach in these games, right?
Yes, because
you've played. Last week was the toughest one, I think, so far. Number 8 Seminole, which was a team you've known about a lot of your coaching career. 5
out of the last 6 years, I've coached against Seminole, and they're dang good. They're always really good on offense. I feel like they have a defense this year to match their offense, so they have a chance to play for a long time. They're a good team.
Yeah, they're going to have some alternate Thanksgiving plans, I think,
this year.
Before that, though, you play New Home, which has had a lot of success. You play Idalou, which if you've lived in Lubbock County any time in the last 50 years, you know what Idalou's done.
Yes.
And then you play Monahans that Joe said had guys that looked like they'd eaten very well through the years.
No doubt. And they had 5 senior offensive linemen that 3 of them had been playing since they were freshmen. Their defensive coordinator, his son and my son played college football together. So the day after that game, we got to sit down and kind of debrief. And one of the things he told me was that one of their offensive linemen that also plays on a D-line, at the end of this season, at the end of the regular season, he'll have played in more games than any player in Monahan's history.
Wow.
So
you caught my attention when you said 5 senior offensive linemen. You don't hear that very often in high school.
No.
That's pretty incredible. So it doesn't get much easier this week. Now, this is a big week for Liberty, for the football program, for coaches, for players, for everybody. First ever home game at your stadium, and I went out there and Joe took me around today. It's top of the line.
It's not a bad place to go to work every day. Our superintendent did an unbelievable job. Everybody who had a say in the planning and the setup of it, they did unbelievable in building that. And and just, they spared no expense. They made it nice for us and, did a great job.
Worked the weight?
Yes.
And I know the weight at times could be frustrating as coaches and players because you're in that brand new, beautiful school, and you had to kind of talking to Lamar Kello during baseball season. I know he talked about, we just keep telling the guys, it'll be here. It'll be here.
Yes, it's going to be really nice. That's Joe and I, that's our inside joke. It's going to be really nice when they're finished with it.
Yep. And it's getting closer.
Now we can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel as far as them getting finished with it. And, the hardest part about the weight was that half-mile walk to practice every day.
I asked Joe today, I asked him if he's still getting his steps in, because Joe and I are about the same age. I think you're a little bit younger, so you don't have to, you've got to wait before you have to start getting checked up by your doctors.
Oh, yeah. Well,
but Joe and I are in that age group now where we have to, I want to make sure he's still getting his steps in. He said he's getting at least as many in and maybe more.
Yes. The field house is plenty big, and we don't know where anything is, so we walk around that place all the time now. So it's just a different set of steps that we're taking every day. We're still averaging between 15 and 20,000 a day.
Your doctor will be happy when you go to see him.
No doubt.
So Fort Stckton, 7 p.m. Friday. Again, it's on 93.1 Yes FM. Fort Stckton's undefeated. So you're going from 8th-ranked Seminole, which had run roughshod through everybody. I promised Joe we wouldn't talk about the score too much tonight.
It is what it is. Everything's a lesson.
They scored a lot, and you guys didn't score as many. Let's put it that way. Fort Stckton is also 4-0. Now, I said the same thing to Chip Darden earlier this week. The thing about the rest of your season, you may see really good teams. You may see really good offense. I don't know that you'll see anybody better than Seminole. So that's at least a building block for you guys to say, hey, look, we survived that. Now look.
Seminole 4-0 and Monaghan and Fort Stckton 4-0 is very, very different looking.
I mentioned one of your guys today. They better start getting some hair on their chest because it's that time.
Yes.
We're going to come back. We're going to talk about because it's a good time for you guys because then you jump right into district. So and your guys that have played basketball and baseball, they have a good feel for those games ratchet up in meaning just a little bit more.
No doubt.
We'll come back on the Patriot Fan Zone. This is Duane Toliver, the Liberty Defensive Coordinator, former Texas Tech Red Raider, and a guy who's been around this area for an awful long time. Not that long. You're still young. I'm Randy Rosetta. This is 100.7 The Score. We'll be back on the Patriot Fan Zone.
Breaking down Liberty sports. This is the Patriot Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back into the Patriot Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score. I'm Randy Rosetta. To my far left, if you are watching on TV, is Liberty Defensive Coordinator Duane Toliver. Everything at Liberty, I can say everybody's the second year, whatever.
Yes.
That's easy to remember.
Yep.
You start getting older, the numbers do tricks in your head, but you guys that'll be easy as long as you're there. So, second year there, spent some time as the Borger head coach.
Yes.
Give me your breakdown. Your 96 to 99 at Texas Tech. Played for Spike Dykes and John Goodner.
Yes, 96, 99 at Texas Tech. My first coaching job was at Slayton as a junior high coach for Greg Hernandez and
friendship principal now.
Yep, just whatever he needed. That's what I did. From there, I came over to Cooper. Coach Wyndham hired me that spring. Got me over to Cooper for 3 years. And then from there, I thought I wanted to be a big school coach. Went down and worked for Coach Parchment at Midland Lee for 2 years. Had a son, and my wife was like, "We need help. We need to get back up closer to family." So we came back to the Lubbock area, and I worked at Shallow Water for 4 years.
And another old school coach.
Yep. And then from there, I went to Lubbock High as a position coach, and then eventually defense coordinator for Mike Speck, and then eventually Jason Strunk. And then from there, I started my head coaching journey. Went to New Mexico for a year for my first head coaching job. Then came back and went to Claude for 2 years. Claude to Tulia to Brownfield to Borger.
Coaches like to move.
Yes.
Well, maybe
I'm tired of moving.
Coaches' wives maybe don't like to move as much as coaches do. Let's put it that way.
Yes. that's you can't do it without a good wife. That's for sure.
Sports writers are the same way. So
we're all in the same boat.
Preaching to the choir. So you got my attention there. What years were you with John Parchman?
2002, 2003, 2004.
Okay, then
I was with him before he retired and went to Cisco.
Then I should have met you back then, because I went down and covered Midland Lee for a year when Mike Meeks was still the defensive coordinator. It was post three-peat.
Yes.
And
the year I was there was the year after they didn't make the playoffs for the first time.
So I covered a playoff. John Parchman, if you happen to listen, I covered you in the playoffs, so that wasn't me. That was somebody else put the onus on you there.
They missed it for a year, then the year after was when I got there, and we started to streak back over again.
The last game I covered was a playoff loss to San Angelo Central.
And I was there for that game.
Emery Ballard's son?
Yes.
Or was it Emery Ballard
No, Emery, it was his son or grandson.
So it was the second or third.
Yes. And
it was a great game. 2 weeks before against Duncanville, where it was the only time in my career I've had a fan want to square off with me because I was just standing there trying to watch football. So a lot of emotion. You'll enjoy this about Coach Parchman. He could be gruff. I think that's a fair.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd go in on my Monday morning to talk to him. I'd walk into, he had a little bitty office, had a TV up in the corner, and I'd walk in and he wouldn't look at me. And I'd stand there for a second. I'd say, John, and he'd, hold on. He'd be watching a cooking show.
Yep.
Up on his TV and did not want to be interrupted. So I was like, okay, I can get in touch with that. So, well, you've coached at a lot of impactful, fun places because you're watching from a distance, not a huge distance, but watching what Lubbock High is doing this year. Is that you kind of feel a sense of pride for a guy who was there and has been through what they go through on a daily basis?
That's one of those jobs that it's a very rewarding job. I still have kids that play for me at Lubbock High that still contact me. They still keep up with me. They, you build lifelong relationships with those kids, and they're now young adults, men. They have families of their own, but they have an impact on you, and you like to think you have an impact on them. So to see what Coach Rodriguez is doing now, it does give me a sense of pride because I know how hard a job that is, and I know what he's going through.
And we talked about this the other night. I don't know if you saw, they won their third game in a row for the first time since 1975.
Yes.
That's just a mind-boggling number to me, and it couldn't happen to a nicer coach and group of guys that are in charge of that program. So we're going to jump back in here after the break and talk more about the guys you coach now, the Liberty Patriots, who are at home for the first time ever Friday night, 7 p.m. at Patriot Stadium against Fort Stckton. I am Randy Rosetta with 100.7 FM, Duane Toliver, the Liberty Defensive Coordinator, to my left, and we'll be back after the break.
Bringing you the latest news from Liberty Athletics. This is the Patriot Fan Zone Podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back to the Patriot Fan Zone on 100.7 FM. We're talking Liberty Patriot football with Defensive Coordinator Duane Toliver. This intrigued me today. I talked to two of your defensive backs.
Yes.
Luke Livingston and Asen Huffman, and talked to Joe afterwards. The thing that all three of them talked about was how much they learned from the Seminole game.
Yes.
I was talking to two defensive backs who were on the other end of, all right, I'll throw this number out here. Was it 500 passing yards?
474.
So, it's a lot.
Yes.
But to hear young guys and to hear your head coach talk about how they appreciated the effort that your guys gave despite that number, as the defensive coordinator, that's got to make you feel like you guys are doing something right.
Yes, and we're getting better. And the whole thing was Seminole was really good at throwing and catching and on offense. And our guys, they made lots of big plays. And every big play, every pass play they caught, we were there. Ball was contested. We just the little things, little details of playing through the hands and playing the ball, we weren't good at it. Now, will we be better at it now that we've seen that? Yes. And that's the whole point. We are learning as we go how to do certain things. And no matter how many drills we do in practice, how many times we're working in practice, until you see it full speed on Friday night, it doesn't set in. And just the fact that our kids see it, they've seen it now they understand. Guess what we did this week in practice? We played the ball better.
Yep.
So it served its purpose.
You don't get better until you see how you have to get better.
Yes.
And I think your guys, just talking to those two young guys. Now, Luke is a kid I got to know during basketball season last. Luke is and not that Ason's not, don't get me wrong, but Luke is a very cerebral kid, and he'd stop and think about his answer before he gave it. You could tell it stung, but also like, okay, we're going to get better from that. And your offensive guys will do that as well. And they've had their moments.
Yes.
You guys have some lightning in that backfield, especially.
Yes, we do. You know, I heard Coach McGuire talk about it, a couple of weeks ago. Complementary football. We have yet to play a complementary game to where the defense is playing really good and the offense is playing really good at the same time. It's always been hit or miss, one or the other. So, Friday night, that's what we're looking to complement each other and both be playing really well at the same time. So,
well, and it's not like I'm breaking any long-time secrets here. You guys aren't the first team, and you're not the only team that I've coaches I talk to right now that you're this far in the season. Most teams have not put 4 really good quarters together. That takes a while, unless you've got 5 senior offensive linemen or something.
Yes.
You might be able to do it then. The Trinity coach today was talking about how and this reminded me of you guys because you struggled in the first half against New Home, second half really outplayed them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it sounded like the next week you had a great first half and then things got away from you in the second half again. So it's just a matter of kind of clicking those pieces together.
No doubt. Just, we don't know what we don't know right now. And I will say this, 4 games in, we've learned a lot of stuff that we didn't realize we didn't know. And the great thing about our kids, they're resilient. They understand that these are lessons that they have to learn, and it's making us better. So I couldn't ask for a better group to coach on the defensive side for sure.
We talked about this summer when you and Barry and Joe and I all got together for a podcast, and I mentioned it before. You got one more non-district game, then the games start to count a little bit more. 2 more? Fort Stckton and
Greenwood.
Okay. I'm trying to make you don't have hair to get gray on top.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get some more gray
in my beard.
So so you get 2 more weeks. And then your guys, you can tell that they kind of understand because they went through it in basketball and they went through it in baseball, that you get into that point, that's when, I don't want to say it's money time. That sounds like college football now. It's more, those games start to count a little bit towards more you want to get. That's got to help you that you've had kids that have gone through that in other sports last year.
No doubt. We have pretty much all of our basketball players from last year, they're playing football. And the fact that they went through a district season, had a play-in game to try to get into the playoffs, they understand how it works and when it gets tight, how they need to perform. So they've kind of been through that fire already, and in football, we had to learn the speed of the game, and now we're getting there. Luke Livingston is a perfect example. First week he had a hard time coming down. He's a safety, had a hard time fitting the run, and then seeing himself on film and seeing some things, you could see him thinking about it. Yep. He's like, oh, I understand now, and now it clicks, and he does a great job of playing the run.
And they get the chance to get back out there Friday night, first ever home game, 7 p.m. at Pirate Stadium. This is Randy Rosetta with 100.7 The Score and the Patriot Fan Zone.